Well, it's like say you're dealing with gold, right? You want to be a gold merchant or be involved in the gold business. And so you could rephrase your question, well, I don't want to insult any of the people who come presenting what they have. They think it's gold. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Right? Listen, it will mean you will have to become acquainted with identifying what is gold and all of its levels. And if you can't, then you can only work under the direction of someone who does, who has that knowledge. Right? So there's a way of determining what is 24 karat gold, what is 22, 18, 14, 12, what's gold plate, gold wash, gold leaf, what's imitation gold. So just as you say, well, I don't want to insult any of the customers. And say, yeah, all right, there's a tactful way to explain to them. We have a process by which we can determine whether or not this is real gold or not. And this is not a fantasy. I've done this in India before. You go to a goldsmith, and what do? They take the gold and they burn it under a lamp, and it's covered in black soot. They wipe it off, and that's what a so-called touchstone is, and you scrape it against that, and there's a way of determining what its actual value is. So, without becoming acquainted with what it is and the means of understanding and verifying what this substance is, then one is not in a position to represent it or to make determinations with others in either direction, good or bad. Right? Therefore, we're told you have to put yourself under the guidance of a Vaishnava, a substantial Vaishnava who can determine, assess properly what is valuable, what is not valuable, what is substantial, what is not substantial. What is imitation and what is real. Right? Back to Saraswati Thakur. 100 cautions. It won't be this, it won't be that. This is your checklist. So when you see those things, if he says, a actual Rasic Vaishnava will never give rasa, and the Rupa Nuga line, will never give rasa shiksha to someone who hasn't the adhikar or capacity to receive it. And you say, oh, but there's this one who's doing that. Oh, well then you look at your checklist and go, well, according to Saraswati Thakur, he must not be a Rasic Vaishnav in the Rupa Nuga line, and he's doing something which is criminal. That's a determination that he's making. It's one example, but there are many. So in general, we say, well, in dealing with other people, what is the general rule? Trinadapi sunichena, tororapi sahishnuna, amanina amanane. To be humble, tolerant, offer respect to others. But when some ignorant people heard, thinking that the Mayapur Chandradoya Mandir, there's so many Americans there and they have so much money, the rumor spread that the deity was made out of gold, solid gold. So they wanted to steal Radharani. And maybe Krishna, they were both like that. They heard they're solid gold. And when they came, the leaders at the time defended the deities even with weapons. So some people came to Guru Maharaj and they said, they're not following Mahaprabhu's teachings of being humble, tolerant, and offering respect to others. But Guru Maharaj said, no, I supported them, saying, Trinadapi suni chena, to who? He said, you've come to molest the deity and the Vaishnava, and then I will practice humility? He said, no, with full force, I will defend the deity, the Vaishnava. So, again, there's a famous thing, Acharjavan Purusho Veda. One who's in connection with an Acharya knows what is what. Otherwise, if we lack discerning ability, discriminating ability, or are not in connection with someone who has such ability, then we'll be likely to misjudge, misread. So then it would be better for us to just be generally respectful and not make such determinations. But as once, after being asked so many questions, Srila Guru Maharaj turned to the group of devotees and said, "Can I ask you a question?" They're like, "Sure." And he said, "What is Krishna consciousness?" And one person said, "It's what Prabhupada taught us." That was a good answer. And then someone else said, "Bhakti." And Guru Maharaj at one point said, "Did he say anything about Krishna?" Little teasing. And then Guru Maharaj just stopped the whole thing and he said, "It is reality. It's reality." And he said, "And it's in your interest to become acquainted with that reality." So we're back to this point. How do you determine what is actual gold? And Thailand's famous for the Nilamani, the blue sapphire. Right? But you could go to a place, if you go to a jeweler, they could show you a palm full of blue sapphires, 100 of them. And let's just say they do, for example. One of them's worth $35,000. One of them's worth $3,500. One of them's worth $350, and one of them's worth $35. Which is which? So someone will say, and rightfully from their perspective, "Well, they all look nice to me." That's not untrue. That's true. They all look nice. Someone else may not care. They say, "Hey, what's the difference?" There's that type of level of understanding also. But someone who's in the market for blue sapphires, it's in their interest. Either they need to become acquainted with how to identify, assess, value of blue sapphires, or they've got to be in connection with somebody who does, or what's going to happen? They're going to be cheated. So a $35 blue sapphire, they're going to be told that it's worth $35,000. So only this will help. Either become acquainted with it under the guidance, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary, the 10th Canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, has a enigmatic expression at one point. He asked the readers to forgive him for becoming a jeweler. As if he's like a mundane, like, "Oh, I've become a jewel merchant, forgive me." But what he's saying indirectly is that he's selecting so many jewels, gems, gem-like interpretations of slokas, and presenting them to everyone. That's what it is. Right? Krishna, known as Nilamani. Right? Rupa Goswami wrote a book, Ujjal Nilamani, this blazing, brilliant blue sapphire. To make any comparative analysis, as I told before in the currency example, every day it changes. What is the value of currencies? But they have to have some standard to measure these things against, to find out this one's going up in value, this one's going down. Or 50 of these make one of those, or 500 of these make one of those. Right? What do we hear? Sri Rama Rama Rameti Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane. It says in one place, Sahasranama, 1,000 names of Vishnu is equal to Ram, one Ram Nam. but then so many Ram Nams to a Krishna Nam. So it's not that we're concocting these things. There are ways to determine that. So, and dealing with the plurality of currencies, someone shows up with their money. If that's your job, then of course you don't want to insult the clients, the clientele. They say, yes, we will happily accept your, and they present something, and they may be surprised. Oh, it only yields one of these. That means quantity and quality. So, Krishna consciousness really is all about gradation, which means understanding superior and inferior. Right? I'm told John Hick, a Christian theologian, he said Christianity is on the verge of a Copernican revolution. Meaning, just like before Copernicus, they thought the earth is the center, it's a geocentric system, and the sun and so many planets are orbiting the earth. Then Copernicus came along, declared a heretic in the beginning, that he's saying, actually it's a solar system, heliocentric. The sun is in the center and the earth is one of many planets orbiting that sun. So John Hick, this Christian theologian, said, Christianity is on the verge of a Copernican revolution. Meaning, up to this point, we've thought this is the central God conception. And there are so many others in remote orbit. Say, no, what you're about to find out is this is one of a plurality of theistic conceptions orbiting a central truth, a supreme reality. So then, for those who want to make a comparative analysis, right, someone could say, well, all are in orbit and all are planets, you can find similarities. But if someone wants to start finding a gradation, then they'll have to become acquainted with the central conception and then see how it's reflected into the satellites. Qualitative assessment. So the analysis of rasa is inevitable. Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhura. And we're told Madhura rasa contains all the others. It's Mukhya rasa, the original. All other rasas are satellites of Madhura rasa. And that's in line with the central conception of the Absolute. The ultimate reality is Radha and Krishna. So how far are Radha and Krishna, the supreme reality, remember we're dealing with reality, so another way to look at it, how far are they reflected into other theistic systems? And they say, you should love God with your whole heart, your soul, etc. Right? All right, good. And that God, what does he look like? Is he alone? What does he do? Where does he live? That seems to be a natural question. This God that we should love with our whole heart and soul and everything, do you have a picture of him? Show me what he looks like. If I said, there's this girl, and you're going to love them with your whole heart and soul, and the first thing you go, can I see him? Well, no. That would be offensive. I mean, it's common sense. Why do you think? Why is it called Facebook? Why? Does it have anything to do with faces? Maybe. Looking at faces and saying, I like this face and this one I don't like as much. Facebook. So people, they want a social network with God, but no pictures. Why? Why are they afraid? Is God married? Does he have a girlfriend? Is he in a relationship? Relationship status. Complicated. This is what Guru Maharaj says about taking a stand with spiritual common sense. I can sit here, we can quote so many scriptures, verses, etc., but also just use your common sense, too. There's another like her as we speak. Prabhupada, the Krishna Book is so beautiful. And the lady artist, Devahuti, she made that painting. Still a very beautiful painting of Radha and Krishna. And what was Prabhupada saying in the beginning? This very time he says, when people see a book, like, I mean, just think, he's trying to really make it simple for people. So what's he call the book? Krishna. The Krishna Book. And what did he say in the beginning? When people see a book like Krishna, and with the cover, he said, they immediately ask, who is Krishna? And who is the girl with Krishna? If you can answer those two questions, you can understand the supreme reality. And any other type of reality. And then you can learn how to measure this reality against that one. You see how relationship-driven we are in this world. Learn from it. It must be there in the original. Once when one of Gurudev's servitors did something wrong, Gurudev's sense of humor and also some statements he makes that are a little like, whoa, like outrage. He said, if Krishna is like that, then what to speak of us? So, this is the driving principle of existence. So, to what degree is it accommodated in theistic systems? So, for the most part, religion is there's a male god, and the feminine aspect is underserved, underrepresented, to put it mildly. Right? Then what do people think to compensate for that? Yeah, so we worship the goddess. Just, to go in the other direction. But the only balanced, fully balanced, complete expression of divinity is in Bhagavan, meaning Shakti, Shaktiman, feminine aspect and male aspect, the supreme female and the supreme male. And then there are Aishwarya pastimes, Lakshmi Narayan, higher, where we find 2.5 rasas. Right? Dasya, Shanta, Dasya, and in the case of some old-time servitors, approaching friendship. So 2.5. You go to Ayodhya, and you have all five are there. Shantadasya, Sakya, there's brother and friends, and Vatsalya, and Madhura. But remember, this is seva. So, conjugal seva is, in Ayodhya, is exclusive to Sita. And it's interesting just to point out that there's a deity, Balaji. It's worshipped in South India. And the opposite of the Krishna trick on Radharani and Vrajagopi, where he pushes out two more arms to make four, Balaji is doing, he has four, he's trying to keep the two. But Guru Maharaj laughed and said, but there are no youngsters in Vaikuntha. Anyway, in Ayodhya, so much so that conjugal seva restricted to Sita, that in her absence, after she's banished to Valmiki's ashram, Ramachandra must perform as an ideal king. He's doing sacrifice. You need your wife at your side when you do these types of yagyas. So yagya sitas were commissioned, murtis of Sita. And to give us some hint of the beauty of Ramachandra, the yagya sitas became animate, and they expressed erotic sentiments towards Ramachandra. And they were told that your desires will be fulfilled when I come as Krishna and Krishna Lila. But this is beyond the purview of Ayodhya and Ram Lila. As also the Dandakaranya rishis. They didn't openly express, but felt some particular thing in their hearts. They were, it was indicated to them that also their desires will be fulfilled in Krishna Lila. So, only Krishna Lila is ultimately all accommodating. The highest expression, the full spectral range of all possible loving expression. So including Parakiya Bhav, which is the predominating sentiment, divine sentiment of Goloka Vrindavan. Expressed in Radharani and Brajagopis as Paramor love. But, as Gurudev and Guru Maharaj have pointed out, from Yashoda, how is Parakiya Bhav expressed there? When she hears rumors that Krishna is not her son. She hears rumors that Krishna is the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. Or cowherd boys, they say, people say Gopal is not one of us. What? Our Gopal? Yes. They're saying he's a god. Descended, or maybe God himself. Gopal? Yes, Gopal. So that's how it's realized with the cowherd boys and Vatsalya Rasa. It has more extensive position. Brindaranyam Swapada Ramanam Pravishad Gita Kirti. Goloka. At the touch of the lotus feet of Krishna, the earth, which we generally take to be in Shantarasa, is shivering in conjugal ecstasy. So, what is not possible in that plane? So again, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he's thinking, somehow bring people in connection with this, and they'll become transformed that they'll become transformed, coming in touch with the actual substance. That we have to understand properly. Not that we do some wild, adulterated, bring people in touch with that. That will not transform them. Pujala Ragapat Gaurava Bange, Matala Sarujana Bishairange. The reason Gurudev asked Guru Maharaj's permission to change this line is Vishaya. In Bengali, it means, it can be understood to mean something mundane. But Guru Maharaj selected the English word bait. Like use bait to catch a fish. So he's saying the Bishairange means some bait is used. So Sanyal, Professor Sanyal writes a book called The Erotic Principle and Unalloyed Devotion. So people think, oh, I'm interested in erotic principle, let me read this book. And then they go, oh, it's not exactly what they were thinking, what they had in mind. But he's using erotic principle to bring them in and bring them in touch with this substance. He's not in that book talking about different types of erotic things or mundane eroticism, but just in the title, he's baiting